After 118, the effect of the stone thrown by Chananet was great. In an instant, a quiet storm swept through the bedroom. Only the sound of someone swallowing his breath rang quietly. It was that moment V screamed like an explosion with a reddened face. What kind of bullshit is that? V's! Lulak shouted loudly as if to warn him, but he couldn't stop the exploding vase. Are you just realizing what you're talking about? Yes, V's, I know exactly what I'm saying. The calm voice of Shananet was more contrasted with the way V's ran wild. I will take the place for you, who lacked the ability. I'm telling you. There was a fire in V's eyes once again. V's, who was taking strides, approached Shananet in a threatening manner and said, I'm not good enough. Yes, it's not surprising. Hey, sister. V's, who seemed to scream, suddenly smiled in vain and looked up and down at Shananet. And he said, as if he was dumbfounded, if a woman wants to become the Lord representative, she sure has a degree in her wildest dreams. Is it impossible because I am a woman? Shananet made eye contact with Bees, taking half a step forward without losing. Well then, tell me if there's anything I'm lacking other than that I'm a woman, Bees. Bees pecked his mouth as if to refute it at any moment, but no words were heard. Instead, his face turned rather than before. Until now, Bees had never lost in this kind of argument. The name of Lombardi was able to capture anyone in an instant. However, it was not Shananet. Shananet was also Lombardi. Moreover, as Shananet said, Bees was no better than Shananet. So instead of answering, Bees was sarcastic again with a red face. At a rate like this, would you ask me to consider you as Lombardi's successor? But Shananet replied with a nonchalant face. You haven't realized what I've been doing so far. It was a word mixed with even a little ridicule. Sister, Beast eventually couldn't resist and raised his voice again. There is no woman lord in the Lambu Empire. It's not forbidden under imperial law. It's just a road that no one has walked yet. Beast couldn't find anything to refute and gritted his teeth. It was then. Only one thing came to his mind that Beast was better than Shananet. It was more of a dagger to Shananet's heart than any other word. Beast pulled out the knife without hesitation. A family where the woman is the owner of the house. How far do you intend to make Lombardy a laughing stock of the aristocracy, as well as being played by a fool like Vestian? The patriarch, who was listening to the conversation between the two, was shocked silently. Hey, that guy! Lulek, who was sitting in the bed, looked around, looking for something to throw away to Beast right away. Janet was silent for a moment. Looking at her, Beast screamed triumphantly as he touched the most painful wound. Since when did our Lombardi live with the attention of other nobles? Until Shananet asked calmly in a non-shaking voice. Did the nobles chatter about me? Then say yes, I haven't done anything wrong, so there's nothing to be ashamed of, but don't forget these. Shananet's eyes were filled with unheard of hostility. You knew about Vestian Scott's extramarital affair, but you ignored it and supported him in real estate. Beast's body flinched greatly. He didn't think Shananet would know that. Shananet said, staring coldly at such a beast. If I were the laughingstock of the family, what would you be? The voice gave Beast the creeps. Shananet knew all that and didn't show it. However, deep anger was enough to turn Beast into a whistle in front of the lion. Finally, Shananet said, looking up and down at him as Beast did. Lombardi does not play with the nobles of the empire. We're a clan that reigns over them. But you seem to have forgotten that. Shananet's figure with a subtle smile was stronger and more beautiful than ever. Beast did not properly refute and looked around. Both Lulek and the Basils were looking at Beast with cold eyes. The atmosphere was running against him. I don't have time to deal with this crap right now. I don't have enough time to do the housework. Beast screamed and tried to escape this moment, but a voice that, if not loud, could never be ignored caught up. Beast, it was Lulek. Let me ask you this time, what has been the hardest thing you've done in the last few days as a landlord instead of me? Are you doubting my ability, father? As if Beast was too much. He tried to appeal to his emotions, but Lulek didn't go over. Beast, you've been taking care of your work as an acting patriarch. This means that you should also be responsible for the people who make up Lombardy. So answer me. What you've been trying to do as a temporary landlord. It's knowing he couldn't get out. Beast worked hard on his head. Lulek was giving him a chance to answer anyway. Then maybe the odds are still there. Beast came up with the most plausible answer that came to mind. It seems to me that Lombardy already has enough money, but so far, the family's businesses have only seemed to focus on being cold assets. So we've tried to neutralize that. Plain and little what you mean by neutralization. Lombardy has too many enemies. I think it is a strong band with other families that makes the aristocracy aristocratic. I tried to make Lombardy a nobleman. So instead of counterfeit checks, you were told to pay attention to the loans of the aristocrats who were close to you. At Lulek's words, Beast glared at Roddick Gray. Sharp eyes. Answer me, please. Yes, that's right. And I didn't ignore the counterfeit check at all. I'm just telling him to get the priorities right. Priority. Lulek sighed quietly. Those who don't know can teach. A fool can enlighten. Counterfeit check issue wasn't serious either, but those who already have the wrong beliefs have no choice. Lulek looked at Shananet and asked, what would you have done? I would immediately have told them to stop issuing existing checks and produce new editions. It would also encourage people with checks that had already been issued to quickly switch to new shaped checks. For example, it would be nice to put a small amount of money on the check. Oh, the householder's Basil family shouted explained. In that way, the damage might be minimized, but V's smirked and was sarcastic. That's not the solution to a counterfeit check, is it? After all, the damage caused by the counterfeit checks printed by counterfeiters is inevitable. Then what will you do, Viz? I wouldn't cash the check right at the counter. Let's just wait a week or so until it's confirmed in the books. That's not possible. Shannon firmly opposed V's words. The Lombardi Bank is based on the trust that we can entrust and save the money. But how can people trust a bank that can cash in immediately the money it's entrusted to them? So what do you want me to do? This and that doesn't work. That doesn't work either. Then bring me a way to figure out a fake check right there. Beast shouted as if he was dumbfounded. It was a counterfeit that even the bank's employees who looked at the checks every day were fooled. To say that it is his sister, Beast smiled leisurely. But the smile didn't last long. There's a way for me to tell the difference between fake, lie, Beast shouted right out. But Shannon didn't look over there. She was just waiting for Lula's words with a calm face. Is that true, Shannon? Yes, father. Now give me a fake and a real check and I can show you right away. Grodick. As soon as Lula called out his name, Grodick Bray hurriedly pulled out a counterfeit check and a real check from his arms. In fact, he brought it in person today to report to Lulak about the counterfeit checks. Here you are, Shannonette. Thank you, Lord Bray. Shannonette, who held the check one by one, looked around and said, and I need a match. I have it. The Lord of Heringa, who is usually a smoker, quickly took a match out of his pocket and scrambled up. Then he looked at Shannonette for a moment and asked, do you want me to light it up, Shannonette? I'd appreciate it even more. Shannonette told Lulak, while Heringa's lord pulled out 2 matches. Look at the color of the flame burning each check, father. Lulak nodded with a stiff face. Finally, Heringa's owner struck 2 matches to ignite, then carefully brought them to both ends of the check. Quick! With a small sound of fire, the check began to burn. End of chapter 119. Oh, a different color. At a glance, different red and blue flames steered the householders. That's the way. Lulak nodded, sweeping his beard. The reddish side is the real Lombardi check. It's counterfeit that the flame is blue. Shannonette answered, putting out the match before all the checks were burned. As you can see, it's an easy way to tell by just burning one corner before the important part with the money of it on it gets burned. Before the important part with the money on it gets burned. If that's enough, you'll be able to check it right at the counter. Burning it on fire, it's a really unimaginable way, Madam Shannonette. Grodick Brave said incredibly in a very excited voice. How the hell did you figure this out? I was lucky trying to figure out how to tell this and that by myself. You're amazing. Before Shannonette answered, there was a slight gap, but no one noticed it. That's Shannonette. What a groundbreaking way. Who could have thought of it? The eyes of the householders who looked at the fake and real checks naturally turned to Lula. Everyone is waiting for Lula's decision. Lula finally looked at V's and Shannonette once. Shannonette, who was confident but did not smile, and V's face, which was distorted by anger, looked at him at the same time. The householder sometimes has to make difficult decisions for the family. Now it's time for that. Lulak spoke in a low voice. Let Shannonette serve as an acting patriarch until I return. It was the moment when Lord of Lombardy's representative changed from Beast to Shannonette. Beast protested in a tearful voice, Father, but Lulak seemed to have no intention of reversing that decision. He only looked at Beast, who cried for himself with a face that had no room for a needle. Do you know what this means right now, Father? You have just officially recognized my sister, who is a woman, as a candidate for succession. You think I don't know that? Are you really going to do this? Beast couldn't beat the anger, so he screamed with blood on his neck. You can't do this just for me, for one counterfeit check. I mean, you can't treat me like this. It's as unfair as a man who's been deprived of what he deserves. Do you think it's because of one thing that led you to retire as a lord? If not, what is it? I think I made the right decision, Lulak said coldly. You should go now. There was nothing more he could do. Beast, who was shaking with his fists clenched, finally glared at Shannonette with his killer eyes and walked out of the bedroom. The door closed with a loud noise, but no one cared. Lula clicked his tongue and shook his head with a sigh, and the householder's Basil family breathed a sigh of relief. They looked like they could breathe now. Then Shannonette looked back at Florentia, which had so far stood motionless in the doorway. A door that's closed with a roar might be scary. Florentia didn't care about that sort of thing. She just stood there with no expression on her face. No, rather the child was smiling. Shannonette knows, a searing sense of victory and achievement that doesn't match that calm face at first glance. Looking at the sparkling eyes of Florentia under her long eyelashes, Shannonette smiled. Asterisk. The day Clarivan visited Shannonette's residence, a neat and cold Clarivan and an elegant yet soft Shannonette sat opposite each other. The two are alike but very different. I'm here to give you this, Madam Shannonette. Clarivan said, putting a small envelope on the table. Shannonette opened the envelope, wondering and checked the contents and opened her eyes wide with surprise. 3,000 gold? That was quite a lot to be written on a single anonymous note. Shannonette looked up and stared at Clarivan. Even with those eyes without laughter, Clarivan was not embarrassed. It was quite a different response from Broderick Brace the other day. The money belongs to Shannonette. No, to be exact, it's Lombardi's money. In a polite but extremely business-like way, Clarivan said, it's the money that Western Scots received the other day, when he asked me to turn the diamond mine into the Scots family. Are you saying you've been asked? Shannonette said with a slight frown, but Clarivan only shrugged once. I'm a businessman and a merchant. I'm after anything that benefits more than justice. Benefits. Shannonette scanned Clarivan with a serious eye, a man who was so loyal to Lord Lulak that she knew he would stay in Lombardy family, but a man who left Lombardy unexpectedly and spread his wings bigger. She is sure he has found something worth more than Lombardy. There was nothing strange about such a man pursuing profit over justice. However, I don't quite understand that. If you're a real profit seeker, shouldn't you just take this note without anyone knowing? When asked by Shannonette, Clarivan thought for a moment and nodded lightly. In fact, it is more appropriate for me to do so, but she won't know what he's thinking. A faint smile smudged over Clarivan's face. Anyway, it would be the mining company that Westing's boat stole from, so I thought it was right to return it to you. Shannonette looked again at the bill that had been handed to her. She couldn't get a heartwarming answer, but Clarivan was right. Thank you for your honesty, Lord Pellet. The money will be used well by the mining company. How are you these days? Clarivan asked at the end of the conversation. I think Lombardi is making a fuss because of the new acting lord. You're still rumored to be working with the Lombardi. You haven't worked in Lombardi for a long time either. Clarivan's words At Clarivan's words, Shannonette nodded but drew the line firmly. But the outsider's excessive interest in the Lombardi family's affairs. How about a counterfeit check? How can you? If I could tell you how to identify a counterfeit check, how could you use it? The vigilance in Shannonette's face was new. Even though he said he would give her the key to solving the problem right away, Shannonette was wary of whether the key was illegally acquired. Perhaps this is what he likes about it. Every time he talked with Shannonette, Clarivan thought, recalling Florentia, who smiled pleasantly. Here's the answer. Clarivan said, taking another envelope out of his arms and putting it down next to the bill. It's up to Shannonette to decide how to use it. Clarivan, who said so, rose from his seat. Oh, and just tell them that's what you figured out are by yourself. Just tell them what you figured out are by yourself. If you told him the truth, it would be a big deal. Shannonette asked him again, how did you know? But Clarivan had no intention of solving the question. Thinking of a way to answer well, Clarivan recalled the right words and curled up the corners of one's mouth slightly. It's a trade secret. Looking at Shannonette with a smiling face, Clarivan walked out. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Awakened by a small sound coming from the side, Shannonette turned her head and looked where the sound came from. Anything else besides milk? Tia was grumbling, putting down a glass of milk with a frown. The twins who were watching the scene said a word. No, Tia has to drink milk. Yeah, you have to be big. You're still too small. What's wrong with me? You two are ignorantly big. I'm the average. 2 weeks have passed since Shannonette became an acting householder. Lombardi was moving steadily, no comparison with when Vise was sitting there. Mulek said, I'll rest a little longer. He has extended his nursing period for another month. Vise, who was removed from his position as Lord Representative, left for Angenis, Cyril's father. It was a normal trip to relax using the hot spring in the west, but everyone knew it was because he didn't dare to watch Shannonette perform the work of the Lord Representative. And today was Shannonette's first holiday since she became acting matriarch. The twins didn't go on sword training today either and stayed in the mansion. Shannonette put down the teacup and said to the twins, didn't you two say you learned a new test? Why don't you show it to Tia today? Shall we? Tia, look at us. Gilio and Myron ran excitedly into the middle ground connected to the drawing room. The loud voices of the two flowed through the wide open door. I like juice. Shannonette called Tia as she watched Tia, still grumbling small, reluctantly pick up the milk. Tia, what? Still 12 years old, as twins say, she has to grow a lot. But Shannonette spoke slowly and said, grow up and be the Lombardi's matriarch, Tia. End of chapter 100. Chapter 120. What? I'm only 12 years old. Am I deaf already? I asked Shannonette back while I rubbed my ear with my fingers. I'll buy you time until you reach adulthood, so grow up and be the matriarch. Shannonette was sincere. That's what I could tell right away from those eyes. Auntie, too. What are you saying? It makes me feel guilty. I tilted my head and said as if I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. You're such a smart kid. But Hannah continued to speak regardless of my efforts. That's a story everyone in the Lombardi family knows. My father even boasts of you to other nobles and His Majesty Jovin's whenever he has time. No, and when did Grandpa get there? And you have an eye for talent, as the example is Dr. Istira. There was a slight smile on Shannonette's sharp eyes. You also know how to make people on your side, isn't it? This time I winced without realizing it. That's true. There's one or two people on my side. My side? Obviously, Shannonette was paying attention to me to some extent. However, it is not certain how far she knows, so it's better to figure out how much she knows, right? First. Yes, Gillian and Meron, also Lorraine. And not long ago, Craney. Aren't you getting your cousins on your side one by one? That's it. It's good to be close to each other. I thought you were talking about Clarivan and Bate. I was so surprised I secretly took a sip of the milk in front of me, sweeping my chest away. And Lord Pellet. Cough. I almost sprayed milk through my nose. Shannonette smiled gently as he looked at me and gently rubbed my back. I guess I was right. No, it's not like that. Clarivan, no. Sir Clarivan says so. It's okay. You don't have to tell me everything. How do you know? As if to answer my question, Shannonette said, I don't know for sure what secrets you have, but I know you're a very special kid. And Tia, you're a child who loves Lombardy as much as I do. Shannonette stroked my head happily. So Tia, you will be the next great matriarch. What about Auntie? Shouldn't the next matriarch be Aunt Shannonette, not me? When I asked, Shannonette opened her eyes slightly and smiled low. Well, I don't know how to put it. It feels like telling me to be a householder is a bit. Shannonette looked at the twins, who were fighting with wooden swords in the middle of the battle. I don't want my children to live the same life as me. Like my aunt? It was a life that I had to be on guard against my siblings' desire to become a successor. Shannonette's face, saying so, looked very sad. As if recalling a memory in the past, her eyes were blurred. Ah, I won. Do it again, again. Then I heard the laughter of the twins. Only then did Shannonette, who regained her smile, look out at the twins. I wish they could always live brightly, honestly, and pursue what they want. Shannonette said so and looked at me calmly. But Lombardi's Lord position can be a more fascinating goal for anyone who wants it. How about you, Tia? My biggest weakness is my age. There's no one in the world who wouldn't trust the whole family to a 12-year-old. And what I needed more than anything else now was time. By the way, Shannon was offering to solve both of them now. She was offering her hand to be the most powerful ally. Good. Can't help but hold that hand. Above all, Shannon is reliable. Maybe I'm the only person in Lombardy that she can trust completely except my father, I said, picking up a piece of cookie instead of milk. If you buy me time, I'll repay you by being the best matriarch in the Lombardy's history. The greatest matriarch in history? Yes, I will make this family great more than now. Oh my. Shannonette suddenly burst into laughter. I've never seen a person smile like that before. Yes, Tia, it will be possible for you if it is you. Shannonette stroked my hair and said, Sure, Aunt. Since you promised to trust me, I'll give you a present too. Shannonette tilted her head at my sudden word. Two-story building with an orange roof in the 8th district of Lombardy residential. Bergen. If it's District 8, you mean the common residential area. What do you mean, Bergen lives there? Yes, that's right. His personal information is a gift I give to you, Aunt. Tia, a man can't be a gift. He's a check counterfeiter. Shannonette's words were cut off. Auntie has a choice as a householder. We can catch Bergen and hand him over to the guard to face justice, or what? You could get him a job at Lombardy to make a non-forgery check. Ah, Shannonette looked at me with a slightly dazed eye and admired. The face that he has created such a good counterfeit check obviously means that there's a great mastery in printing. It's a bit of a shame for such a talent to just rot in a dungeon for years. It's important to be legally punished, but if it's in Lombardy's interest, it's good to make the most of it. And I think if it improves the security of Lombardy, it will definitely raise my aunt's reputation as a Lord representative. There was a counterfeit check once, and no one can guarantee that there will be no more again. Of course, instead of being punished, he had to endure the punishment that made him pay more. We freed him for almost going to the dungeon, and he will not going to complain about that. Yes, I'll use your gift well. But Tia, what? How do you know the identity of the forger? Shannonette asked with a face of pure curiosity. At times like this, the answers I can give are fixed. It's a trade secret. But Shannonette covers her mouth and laughs. Why are you laughing? You think I'm funny? It's nothing. Shannonette couldn't stop laughing while answering like that. It was then, Tia. Someone was running across the middle anxiously calling me. Even the twins who were playing with swords were so surprised that they stopped. Dad? Tia. I stood up in astonishment. Dad, why? Are you a beggar? My father, who I had always thought would look neat and tidy, had not washed properly for several days, with a scruffy face, wrinkled clothes, and a scruffy beard. But my father didn't care about it and ran over and hugged me. Of course, avoided the place where I'm hurt. I'm sorry your dad was late. I was late coming back from work. I'm sorry, Tia. It's okay. I patted my father on the back. Is my daughter all right? Doesn't it hurt a lot? My father asked, looking carefully at my face and whole body with prying eyes. Oh, my shoulders are okay now. I untied the stitches last week. Stitches. My father staggered for a moment and soon said as if he had made up his mind. Yeah, it's okay now. Dad here. I'll take care of what's good for you. Yes, Dad. Perhaps he was very worried. As soon as he was done in the south, he was not sleeping, not resting. It was riding the carriage back to the mansion. Even my father can't handle it. I grinned face to face with my father. Oh, Tia's face has become half-faced. Well, I haven't seen her. That's not about me. It's your father. Then Shannonette, who was watching from the sidelines of the father and daughter's reunion, called my father. Galyahan. Yes, sister. Go wash up unless you really want to make Tia sick. Shannonette said so and gently dragged me away from my father. What? Oh, I see. My father quickly stepped back from me at Shannonette's words. Let's have dinner together when you get back from the shower. Say hello to our father first. Perhaps you run right here without greeting first. Haha, I'm in a hurry. Then I'll call our father to join us for dinner. Yes, sister. Tia, I'm going to go wash up. We had lunch together after Dad showered, which I don't know how many days it's been since my dad last showered. Shannonette also invited Laurel's family, who remained at the mansion for dinner. It was regrettable that Lorraine was not with him. It's been a long time since Lombardy's been able to sit together without frowning. It's thanks to the non-existent of these. It's been such a rough day. When I came back to my room after getting ready to sleep, I saw a letter envelope on my desk. Dear Tia, it was a letter from Perez. You must have arrived safely at the academy. He said he would send a letter as soon as he arrived. The distance between the academy and Lombardy was so far that it was inevitable. Dear Tia, it's my first time in the academy. We were assigned a room one by one, but everyone is shouting that the room is too small. But I'm fine. It's very satisfying compared to the palace where I used to live alone. Caitlin and Kairos were assigned to rooms on both sides of me because of the academy was so considerate. Maybe because it's in the mountains, it's very cold here. I can barely see my breath in the morning and at night. Tia, I'm glad it won't be cold where you live. I'm going to start to soar department class next week. I'd like to take a political class if I can afford it, but I don't know what will happen. There are so many different people here, and I think there are many people who are surprisingly friendly to me. Maybe I can make friends here too. It's already this time. It's time to turn off the lights. I'll shorten this letter. Don't get sick. Eat well. I will wait for your reply. I miss you. From Perez. What kind of letter did you send? It's so long. 1, 2, 3. Counting down, it was long. A long letter of 6 pages. I could tell only one thing clearly, and his trivial daily stories filled in the letters. Excited, right? Perez is obviously adapting well to the academy. If I don't write back immediately, he'll be upset again. I picked up a pen right away and started writing back. Dear Perez, I'm glad you seem to be adapting well to the academy. I live as usual every day. Have you made many new friends? Sometimes tell me about your new friend. I wonder what kind of people you're going to get along with. And Perez and I consistently exchanged letters. I also had to prepare a large box to store my letters. Later, even the small gifts that Perez sent cluttered and quickly filled it up. As time went by, letters began to pile up. End of chapter 120.